Okay. It's great to perform like the week before Thanksgiving. Because I don't know, just for me, performing before Thanksgiving, it's a hard time. Thanksgiving's a hard time for me. And so where am I going to start with my story tonight? After my wife and I, Lauren, got married, we agreed, we're not going to have any kids. And she had a really good argument. Her argument was that why raise a kid if they're just going to hate you anyways? And I think my argument was a little better thought out. Mine was, I was in my 50s and having kids. I didn't want people to think I was the grandfather. And so the idea of having kids, I kind of put it out of my mind until one day I was in group therapy and somebody said something to me that was like, oh, maybe I should think about having a kid. And I've been in group therapy for about 12 years. And every Monday for the last 12 years, I go down to the Loop to the 18th floor of 32 East Washington. And it's 8 guys, and it's run by this little crazy therapist. And he's a Freudian guy, so all his solutions are you just have to have more sex. And which wasn't helpful the first 9 years because I wasn't having any. And so I'm there, and I'll tell you why I was there. Because I was going through a crisis. And it was a really serious crisis. And I was probably in a pretty deep depression, too. I was teaching one improv class a week. I was living off credit cards, and I was sitting in the tub listening to Howard Stern. And I was trying to figure, and I couldn't understand why I wasn't famous. Because I had started out in Chicago when I was in my 20s, and I doing improv and comedy and stuff like that. And a lot of people that I had started out with were starting to be on television shows and movies, and they were getting Emmys and Oscar nominations, and it drove me crazy, because I'm a really jealous person. And I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand it. And I was like, you know what? I gotta get help with this. I really gotta get help with this, because I really thought that if I became famous, that it would fill that hole. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go to therapy for a couple of years. I'll get into group therapy for a couple of years. Maybe they'll put me on meds, like some, like fame-inducing drugs. And then I'll go to Los Angeles, where all the people that I started out with are doing really well. Well, the first session I got in there, and I was talking about this, and my therapist said to me, he said, well, have you thought about getting into a relationship? And I'm like, no, I'm here because I'd like to be famous, or figure out why I'm not famous. Which seems like a very simple, don't you think that's a very core issue that could be solved? Because I had like people in my group that were like a sex addict. There was this guy, Bathhouse Ron, who we called him Bathhouse Ron. He was a sex addict. It didn't matter where he was, it always ended up the same way. He ended up like blowing some guy in a bathhouse, And then there was Dave, who was this guy, who anytime he got in a serious relationship, he'd shit in his pants. And he actually came to a session once and sat through the whole session after shitting in his pants. And he at first, the therapist confronted him and said, hey, what's that stuff on your pants? And he said, well, I stepped into a puddle. And then about halfway through, he's like, no, I have a confession to make. I shit in my pants. And so there was people that were a lot more fucked up than me, which is good. Which is good. Let me tell you, that's good. If you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I've got the right therapist, a group therapist, at least half the people are more fucked up, stay. Because that is the quickest way to feel better about yourself, A guy, what could I do that's going to make me feel bad about myself, So anyways, I'm in there, right, and they talk about, hey, why don't you get in a relationship? So we get sidetracked. This whole fame thing gets sidetracked, and now I'm starting to date. And I meet Lauren, and then we have sex. And then the relationship's going so well, I want to break up with her. And Steven, who was in group, and he's the wisest guy in the group, but also the angriest. And I say, Steven, I want to break up with Lauren. And he says, don't break up with her. You can only break up with her when it's not fun anymore. And that was the greatest advice he ever gave me. Plus, I was scared. If you called Steven for advice, you were going to take it, because if not, he'd be mad at you. So then Lauren and I, we have this wonderful wedding. We get a townhouse in Evanston. And my personal life has never been better. Now, my career is still shit, and I'm pissed, and I'm unhappy. And I let my therapist know. And this is the thing that he said to me that changes my mind about having kids. He says to me, have you ever thought about having kids? Maybe, just maybe, if you have kids, it'll bring more joy into your life. So I go home that night and I talk to Lauren, and we're both very unsure about having kids still. But we decide to have kids. We decide to make them ourselves with the penis and vagina method. You're familiar with that? And so we're doing it, nothing's happening. So we're like, okay, we got to go to a fertility doctor. We go to 3 fertility doctors, 3 of them. She has 8 fertility treatments. The last treatment, we're like, this is it. We're not pouring any more money into it. We're not going through the stress of it, because it's very, very stressful. If this embryo, we're down to 1 embryo, if it doesn't come up a winner, that's it. We're going to accept that we're not going to be parents. That thing holds on, and we get pregnant. And I'm terrified. I am terrified. Because that is the closest word I have to excitement. 3 months later, we find out it's a girl, and I'm totally relieved, because I don't want a boy, because I was screwed up by my dad. I don't want to pass it that generation. We come up with a name. Now, Lauren tells me that when she was a little kid and was thinking about having kids, she wanted to name her baby, if she had a baby, name it Jane. But she didn't think she would marry a guy with the last name Carrane. So Jane Carrane, it was like, it rhymes too much. And we didn't want our kid to be made fun of. He was going to take enough shit because he had an old dad. So we were like, okay. We came up with Betsy Jane Carrane, and that's her name. And we even have a song, Betsy Jane, Betsy Jane, Betsy Jane Carrane. That is her name, Betsy Jane Carrane, Betsy Jane Carrane, Betsy Jane Carrane. 6 months later, we are enrolled in baby school. This is a 4-week class given through the hospital. It teaches you about the whole birthing process, from the beginning to the end. All right? I'm not going to say I graduated honors. I'm just going to say we were at least the top half of the class. I thought I understood everything. But apparently I didn't, because on July 2nd at 2:38 in the morning, Lauren got up to go to the bathroom. And I hear, the water broke! My water broke! In which I rolled over and went back to bed, because I'm thinking, I gotta get a good night's sleep, because tomorrow's gonna be a big day, because we're gonna have a baby. Of course, I can't sleep because there's too much noise coming from the other room. It sounds like someone shot a moose in there. I go in there, Lauren is sitting on a yoga ball in the dark listening to Taylor Swift. She's like, we gotta go. So I take her to the hospital. We get to the hospital. Once we get to the hospital, it's really good, because she's almost 5 centimeters. And 10, when you get to 10 centimeters, the baby comes out themselves. They actually just walk out of the womb. So I'm like, this is cool. This is gonna go really fast, no problem, right? No problem. Except, Lauren is in a lot of pain. And I have to lie to her for the next 2 hours, because she wants the epidural. And the epidural is it's pain medication. It'll take away the pain, and I have to lie. And I have to say, don't worry, Lauren, it's 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes, I'm just lying and lying. And I'm feeling guilty after this. I'm like, just give her the epidural. I can't take it anymore, because I feel so guilt and shame. And so they give her the epidural. And what happens sometimes when you get an epidural? The dilation stops. And now we're looking at the monitors, and the baby's heartbeat, Betsy's heartbeat, is dropping. And the doctor comes in, real arrogant asshole, right? He comes in and he's like, we're going to need to do a C-section. Basically because he has 2 vacation homes. So we are rushed to the emergency room. Lauren is out cold on the operating table, and I'm standing there. Lauren's right here, right? Her body's there, and they put this nice curtain up so I can't see anything that's going on the other side of the curtain. All I can hear is the doctor and nurse talking very casually. like they do this procedure 10, 15 times a day, which you would have to if you had 2 vacation homes. I don't trust people. So, 25 minutes later, I hear, wah, wah, wah. Then the nurse comes from around the curtain. And she's holding this thing, really, and it's where the baby should be, right? It's orange in color, and the head's kind of got a little dent in it, and it's got slime on it, and everything's, the eyes are closed, and the vagina looks like a bee stung it, and it's ugly. And I wasn't prepared for that. They didn't tell me that in baby school. And it looks like a creature, it's not human. And think about like the dirtiest public bathroom you could possibly think of, right? Maybe it's in a bus station, or maybe it's a truck stop somewhere. And if you saw that baby sitting in that toilet, you'd be like, oh, now I know where babies come from. I was totally freaked out. But more, I was pissed off. Because everybody told me when Betsy would come out, I was going to be rushed with unconditional love. My fear would be replaced by joy. This was going to be the happiest day of my life. And this wasn't happening. And I wish I could tell you when we bought Betsy Jane home that 3 months later things changed, but they didn't. She was crying. We were up all the time. My wife and I would say, oh my God, we made a mistake. We wanted to put her on Craigslist. Now, around the 6-month mark, I'm in the living room and I'm on the floor, and we're playing a game called Pass the Ball. Do we have parents in the audience? Do we know Pass the Ball? Okay, it also might be known in some parts of the country as roll the ball. If you don't know this game, let me quickly explain to it. It's 2 players. Player A is usually an adult or a legal guardian or a parent, and player B is a baby or a toddler. Player A initiates, basically it's their whole game. They push the ball to player B, the baby, and the baby pushes the ball back, and so on and so forth. I don't even know why they call it a game, because there's no points, there's no winner or loser. It's basically when player A is tired or can't, is uncomfortable, or their back hurts a little, that they call the game is over. So we're playing that game, and my wife comes down, Lauren comes down the stairs. Now, just so you understand, my wife, she comes from a very conservative, Pennsylvania, German, rule-following family. So she's looking at us playing pass the ball or roll the ball, depending on what part of the country you're from. And she's looking at us, and I'm thinking for a second, oh my God, she's going to tell me that I'm playing this game wrong, which drives me insane. But she doesn't. She's looking, and I'm like, oh, I'm trying to figure out what she's... Then all of a sudden, she goes, you're having fun. I'm like, I'm not having fun. You are having fun. I'm like, I'm not having fun. You're having fun with Betsy. You tell everybody that you're so tired. So my wife goes into her imitation of me, which is kind of like a cartoon. She said, you tell everybody you're so tired. You tell everybody it's so hard having a baby. But this Betsy really gives you a lot of joy. And then she says something she was so right, and I don't even want to admit that she's right. I don't even want to admit to myself that she's right. She goes, your shtick is that you tell people that you're happy when you're miserable. You're miserable being happy. And she was right. Because Betsy Jane did and does give me so much freaking joy, I can't tell you. But you know what? I'm a slow learner. I need someone to point out, oh, you're having fun at that game. I'm the guy at the party who goes, hey, we're going to play euchre. I'm like, no, I don't want to play a game. I don't want to play a game. And they're like, no, it'll be fun. I'm like, I'm not here to have fun. It's a party. But my wife pointed out to me that I was having fun, and she was right. And from that moment on, things changed. I'm not saying it's perfect. You know, I'm not saying, oh, a kid. You guys who've had kids, you know. But I could start to see the things that brought me joy. Like rocking her and singing her to sleep at night. You know? Taking her to the grocery store. I love to go to the grocery store. She says to me, now she's 2, she says to me, Daddy, I'm scared. I never got to say I was scared to my parents. I'm scared. She's scared of everything. And the other night she said, Daddy, hold my hand. Because when you hold my hand, I feel much better. That's joy. And here's the best part, and I don't know how this happened. I honestly, I don't know how this happened. But that whole of having to be famous, and it's gone away. Because Betsy doesn't care that I'm not famous. All that she cares is that I'm her daddy. Thank you.